Hello, everyone. Welcome in. This is the information session for applications and admissions for the University of Washington Master of Human-Computer Interaction Design Program. We're here to talk to you today about admissions for the class that will begin in 2026, graduating in 2027. So welcome everybody in here. We hope we'll have an informative and worthwhile chat with you today to tell you a little bit about the program. As we get going today, if you wanted to use chat to give an introduction, say who you are and where you're calling in from, I think it could be interesting to sort of get a feel for where in the world this group of people that are gathered here are all coming from. So feel free to use chat. We can also put questions in chat as we go along. We'll keep an eye on those, and when we get to the Q&A side, we can make use of those questions that have come up in the chat session to answer the things that are top of mind for you. As we get going here today, we've got an agenda set out that's pretty straightforward in what we're up to. So we're going to give a little bit of introduction here, talk the big picture on what we're doing here in this program, go into a little detail about the curriculum, talk about the specifics for admission, a little bit about career outcomes in this program, and then talk with a group of students who are here with us today too, to talk about their experience. I think it's always more interesting to hear from people who are actually experiencing this program as students. So we'll do that, and then we'll have time for questions and answers at the end. To begin, I hope you're continuing to introduce yourself and chat along the way. The hosts for today, we've got 3 hosts from the staff side and a group of students here as well. So with me today, I'm Matt Bartels in the center circle there. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Services, a graduate advisor in the program. Joining us as well is Jacob Wobrock, a professor in the Information School and our program director, and Michelle Barreto. She's a graduate advisor in our program. So the 3 of us will be your hosts for today. In addition to us, we have 4 students from the current cohort who have joined us and will be here to talk about their experience and answer questions as well. We've got Caleb, Kanishka, Mira, and Jai all here to chat with us today too, and you'll hear from them a little bit later in the day. So that's the crew on this end, and I think it's time to start talking about the program a little bit. So to start us off, I'd like to introduce Jacob Wobrock to talk a little bit from the overview perspective. So Jake, welcome in.
Yeah, hi everybody. I go by Jake, so that works as well. And I am a professor in the Information School, as Matt said, and I'm currently the interim director of the program. And I actually helped found the program way back in, I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but we started to work on it in 2008, and we had our first cohort, I think, in 2012. And so it was a number of years in building out what is a really special program. And part of what makes it special is that it brings people together from 4 different units on campus in particular. And those are the Information School, Design, and Human-Centered Design and Engineering, and Computer Science and Engineering. Yeah, I knew we had a diagram here to that we'd get to. And I'll talk a little more about this when we get to it. So from those origins, we are here today in this fabulous new space. Matt's going to talk about that in a little bit. And our mission is that we seek to prepare leaders who intentionally draw from and contribute to different disciplines to practice critical optimism in how human-computer interaction and design approach practice. So it's a lot of words, but basically we are optimistic, but not blithely so. So we're critically optimistic. We evaluate things carefully, but we believe in a better future than a worse one, and we seek to make the future better through our design and technology and user research efforts. And we also are focused on practice, like the end of that sentence says. So we care a lot about how we go about our work, and we want to practice our design in ethical ways and in conscientious ways and environmentally sensitive ways and so on. And so our practice is a big part of what we focus on. Okay, go ahead to the next slide now. We also have a vision that our graduates will create equitable, ethical, interactive systems that enhance human well-being, considering the needs of both humans and societies. So we think about individual users, and we also think about groups and organizations, and even society as a whole, and that the whole kind of range of that. And so that's what we're going to try to turn you into if you're not already. And you can see the focus here is on a kind of thoughtful practice of design and human-computer interaction. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. So as I mentioned, we come from, we in the program, and the program itself comes from the 4 contributing units: the School of Art, Art History and Design, Computer Science and Engineering, Human-Centered Design and Engineering, and the Information School. And those groups founded a cross-campus group called DUB, which stands for Design, Use, Build. And DUB is essentially the umbrella that we all in HCI and Design at UW kind of sit under. And I'll just brag for a moment and say that, to be fair, along with Carnegie Mellon, UW and Carnegie Mellon are kind of heads above the rest as far as the number of faculty who do HCI and design, and the number of papers that we publish in the top conferences and journals every year, the number of awards that we win, the number of great students that we produce. It's kind of a heads above the rest kind of thing. And it's not to say there aren't other good programs in other places. There definitely are, but they tend to be smaller or maybe focused on a niche area. But UW and CMU are kind of the 2 gorillas, I guess, in the zoo here. And I went to Carnegie Mellon, got my PhD there. So it's a great place as well. And I know many of you might be looking at their Masters of HCI program. It's great. I have nothing bad to say about it. But that's kind of the landscape here. And we do it not by a single department like they have, but we bring together these different departments and faculty from across the campus to make for this special program. Okay, let's go ahead to the next slide. So out of DUB came MHCID. And as I said, we started working on this in 2008. I came to UW in 2006, along with some other faculty and some of these other units. And that's how we got started so early on this. And we're really proud of this program because it really set a kind of precedent for interdisciplinary programs across campus. For example, now we have a Master's of Science in Data Science at UW, and it has 6 departments that contribute to it, and it patterned itself after MHCID. So we really were a pioneer in this kind of program at UW, and now we're the model that a lot of the other programs look to for these kinds of interdisciplinary programs. Okay. You can go to the next slide. So I'll leave it there as a little bit of history and a little cheerleading for what we've got here as being so special. I really believe in it. It's something that's very near and dear to my heart and has been for 20 years. So I hope you're able to come join us and get excited about this program in the way that I'm still so excited 20 years later. I'll pass it along.
Awesome. Thank you much, Jake. Yeah, it's really great to sort of start, I think, from that perspective of where we've come from and what this program was established to do. I'm going to get more into the weeds here to talk a little specifically about how we structure the program and what the curriculum looks like. So the program structure is fairly straightforward, but it's really important to know as you're comparing different programs and you're looking for ways that will teach you in the way that best fits your own interests and your own learning styles. So just to state hopefully some things that are obvious and others that may not be as obvious, we're a 1-year program. Students begin in September and graduate 11 months later in August. We're one year start to finish to get the master's degree. It's a full-time program, and it's mostly a daytime program. So this is a pretty intensive year. You'll be very busy this whole year as you go through. In addition, because it's a full-time program and a mostly daytime program in this compressed state, it's not a work-compatible program. It's possible to do a little bit of work while you're in the program, but you're not going to be able to take this in addition to a full-time job. We don't think that's a setup that works for the way that we structured the program. Every year we enroll about 50 students. The current cohort has 47 students in it. And we work according to the cohort model in a dedicated studio space. And those last 2 points I wanted to call out and talk a little more about as we go forward. So what do we mean by the cohort model? So the cohort model is a setup that has you working together with your classmates a lot more than you do in a lot of different graduate programs. The emphasis in how we learn is really on group collaboration. You'll be working in a lot of group projects throughout this year here. This is not a program for someone who wants to bury their nose in a book and escape to the library for the whole year. You're together with others for much of what you're doing here. There's not too many solo projects throughout the year. A lot of group collaboration is how we form the learning objectives in most of our courses through here. The core courses are all taken together as a cohort. So for about 85% of the credits that you take, you're going to be with the full cohort together. The ways you specialize, we'll talk about in detail in a little bit, but electives are where you can kind of shape the edges of the curriculum and the specific projects that you work on when you're in the core classes. But that's what makes us a cohort model, a lot more collaboration with this set of people that form the group that comes in together and walks through the program throughout this year. I mentioned a dedicated studio space. We've moved into a new space this year, and we wanted to take a little bit of time in the info session to show off our space. So if my technology is working, I'm just going to hit play on this video that we just made from our move-in on what the space looks like. So, by the way, I want to give kudos to Caleb, one of our student presenters in the panel coming up soon. Caleb shot this video for us. It was shot before we really had moved our students in, so it doesn't look quite lived in, but this is a great new space that we've got here. And I think one of the advantages of this place that we moved in is there's really some room to spread, to go and like work in one corner, get together with a team in another corner, go have a meal down at one edge of the studio space. It's a nice area to spread out in, find a classroom or an office space that you want to work in, or work in the large studio space. So we're excited that we've got this really beautiful looking new studio space that's joining us. We're just 1 month into our occupancy here. Pretty awesome. So I want to talk a little about the types of courses and how the curriculum puts together. Once you've seen those overarching themes of like how we're a cohort model and the like, I wanted to just talk briefly about the classes you'll be taking. And I think these come together in about 5 different types of classes in our core curriculum. You'll take studio courses, the capstone series, which is sort of an add-on addition to the studio courses. Then there's seminar courses, the portfolio class, and electives. And we'll talk about each one of these things as we go along. So first up in that list are studio courses. Studio courses are where we learn by practice. So these are courses where you're often put together in small groups of 3 or 4 people, classmates, and you'll have a theme for the course, and you'll explore different ways of designing and different parts of the design process. In fall quarter, it's ideation studio. That's what our current students are taking right now, where the emphasis is on coming up with ideas and understanding how to select amongst the ideas that you've chosen, the beginning stages of the design process. Even though it's at the beginning, the course still has students walking through a full project to get to a point that they can have a portfolio piece out of that studio class. In winter quarter, you take prototyping studio, a studio focused on moving from the computer to the real world. So embodied design, making things, building physical objects, a little bit of coding along the way as well for sensors and the like. But prototyping is really about like using those skills that you need to use for building up the tools to test the ideas that you have. And then comes summer or spring and summer, we move into capstone studios. So capstone runs beginning lightly in the winter quarter with a class to figure out what your teams are and who your industry advisors are. But then you go into a studio for research about all the background that you need to become subject matter experts in the theme for your capstone project. Summer quarter, the final quarter in the program, is capstone studio, where you're working almost entirely on your capstone project. So capstone projects are group projects, again, 3 to 4 people. Each team is matched with an industry advisor. So in addition to their faculty instructors, you'll have somebody that you're working with that comes from industry and brings their expertise with them to help shape the way that you approach your design problem. These are intended to be sort of the summative project. You've been studying through the year, you've gone through several loops of projects, and this is a chance to dive in an 8-month-long project to really explore what might be possible if you had a lot of time and a lot of space to really push yourself on some new space or new project to work on. By way of example, every year we have different sets of industry advisors. Some return year after year, others come in new, but this is a list of who the advisors were for the cohort that most recently graduated. A great group of industry advisors from big and small companies around the Seattle area. And that's a typical group that we have as industry advisors. So you can see some familiar and some maybe unfamiliar names in there. We think it's really important, though, for this large project in capstone to have both the perspective of instructors and your classmates and also the industry perspective to really ground what you're doing in something that's realistic for the business space after you've graduated. A second type or another type of course that you'll have throughout the program are what we think of as our seminar courses. So if the studios are the practice side of things, seminars are intended to mostly be the theory side of things. We want you to come out of this program not just having done a lot, but also understanding why you're doing what you're doing. So you go through a series of core seminars, one each quarter, that build on the different theoretical and historical frameworks that underlie how we're doing this design process that we're doing. So in the fall quarter, we have usability and user research seminar, where you get a grounding in a lot of different methods of research and understanding how to do good research and how to avoid bad research methods along the way. Winter quarter, we take user interfaces, software, and technology, a course that really dives into understanding where these different interfaces that we're working with come from, what's the history behind them, what are the theories that undergird how we interact with the different interfaces that we design for now. The third seminar in this series in the core curriculum is called Designing Interactive Systems. It's often a class that problematizes the design that we're doing. And now that we've been through much of the year, by the time you get to this course, we want to step back and say, like, okay, why are we doing it the way that we're doing it? What else might we be considering? Who are we excluding? Who are we including in the way we design? The Design of Interactive Systems class in the spring is really a chance to start taking on head on those ethical questions to make sure that that's part of how we build our designs and how we move forward with projects going forward from there. In spring quarter, you also have a portfolio class. It's a dedicated class to help you really make further strides in presenting the projects that you're going to be presenting for the job search. The portfolio class brings together a couple of folks from industry who will come in and talk to you about best practices for telling your stories from your different cases and projects that you've worked on. Understanding what makes a good web-based portfolio and what makes a good portfolio presentation during the interview process. Two slightly different skills that you'll want to be developing. You'll focus on that a lot in spring quarter. Finally, after portfolio class, the last piece of our curriculum that we'll go through is electives. So I mentioned about 85% of the curriculum is all taken together as the cohort. Electives are where you can specialize a little bit. Our electives are mostly offered by those four schools that Jacob mentioned in the beginning, the Information School, Computer Science and Engineering, Design, Division of Design, and Human-Centered Design and Engineering. Electives in each of those programs, as part of hosting us, they offer a space for students to take several electives every quarter. So there are electives available. I think of them as a place sort of icing on the top of your year of study. They're a place where you can either fill in a gap of something that you've identified that you're missing that you want to build up this year, or it might be a place that allows you to go deeper in something that's your specialization. So you might want to be a researcher who takes a particular quantitative research course, something like that, that you just want to like build up an extra skill to become more of a mixed method researcher, for example. So electives are kind of the icing on the cake of the core curriculum. Few sample electives. I just listed here some of the ones that are that come up throughout the year that are generally pretty popular ones as we go along. There's electives on all sorts of different specialty topics or project-based courses. And so they really give you a lot of chance to sort of try out something different that you're not getting in the core curriculum. Overall, this is what the quarter by quarter year looks like. We start out with Ideation Studio and User Research in autumn. In winter, it's Prototyping Studio with that user interface software and technology class and capstone planning added on top. Spring quarter, we start getting into capstone research along with that design of interactive systems seminar class. This is where our portfolio class comes in as well. And then summer is all based on capstone studio. You're really preparing for graduation when you come to summer quarter. This is what our curriculum looks like. It's a pretty well-defined curriculum, and I think it gives you a chance to get several loops of practice with projects throughout the year, and also a chance to build that foundation, especially in the theory courses, to really understand the why behind what you're doing here and how you're going to be a designer moving into your careers after this. We've talked a lot about the curriculum and the like. I think it's worth stepping back a little bit and saying, maybe talking about and answering the question, like, who's right for MHCID? So who are we looking for from our applicants in the program? For this, I'd encourage Michelle and Jacob as well to jump in, and any of us can talk about any of these bullets. Jacob or Michelle, if either of you would like to grab a couple of these bullets and see what's going on with these.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Oh. Michelle, I'm not hearing you. I think Jake, I think we'll take it for now.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll take the first one. So we're looking for people who are curious and thoughtful about people and technology. What does that mean to us? I think I key on the word curious, the beginning of that. We're definitely looking for folks who are exploring and wanting to learn more through this year. We're not looking for folks who are just reiterating what they already know. We think you're coming here to learn something, and that curiosity really drives what the people in this cohort tend to bring with them. I think it's thoughtfulness and curiosity, not just about technology though. We're an HCI program, and that H part is about humans. So we want people who are interested in learning both about technology and about how people interact with that technology.
Yeah, I can take the second bullet.
Go for it.
Yeah, so self-directed and driven is probably pretty self-explanatory, but the program is a fairly intense one, and it's a graduate program. So, we don't spoon feed you everything you might need to know. That's a little bit more of an undergraduate kind of experience. As graduate students in project-based studio style classes, you will be defining the problems you work on as much as addressing problems that you're given. And a lot of it's how much you put in, you'll get out. So the more driven students who go the extra mile often find that they have the results at the end they're most proud of too. So It's an intense program. It's an exhausting program for a lot of folks. But as a, essentially one full year program, you can kind of push hard and come out of it with a lot to show for it, and then be on your way. So that's part of why we designed it that way, so that it's not just a 2-year program that keeps you here kind of longer than you need to be.
Yeah, and I think that's absolutely right, that the value of being self-directed as a graduate student, it really can't be undersold. This really is a program where there's going to be you're going to be very busy, but making the most of it is what you're bringing into the program. And having that sensibility can be really helpful. I think the next 2 bullets on this list are things that we've already kind of talked about. Hopefully you understand more about the studio model or the studio space, the cohort model that we work in. That appeals to some people and doesn't appeal to others. As you're looking at different programs, you want to have that in mind to say like, okay, would I want to be in this space with everyone? Is that a way that I can see myself spending the year? We hope so. We think it works really nicely, but that's something you want to have in mind and understand as you're applying for the program. And yeah, it's a busy year, 1 full year. You'll be very busy throughout the year. It's also financially, a financial cost to take a year off from working and come and do this program. It's nice that it's just 1 year of that, but you have to know that coming in. We'll talk a little more about finances down the road, but it's largely a self-funded program as you're going into it. That's how I'd be expecting how it's going to line up for you. So have to be willing to have that as part of your strategy as you're thinking about programs. With the last couple of points, an impulse towards creation and a sense of purpose, these we found to be really helpful for students as they're trying to figure out like where their place is in the field, their careers that they're headed towards, and also in how they're approaching this overall, this HCI field. I think an impulse towards creation means you're not just looking to learn what has been done, but we're looking for people who are excited about what might be and how we might take these lessons from the academy and apply them to solve real problems and to think about things that might be improved in the world. So that impulse towards creation really makes for some curious folks, that curious and thoughtful classmate that you want. We think that comes a lot from people who have that impulse towards creation. And a sense of purpose, your purpose is probably something that's an evolving target throughout your life. It's not like we think you're going to have all the answers already before you come into a program, but having a look and a sense of like where I want to go at this moment, what's driving me to move forward, that can be really helpful as well for making a compelling applicant to this program.
I can add to that last one too a little bit.
Yeah.
The design is fundamentally interventionist, right? It seeks to take existing circumstances and change them into better ones. But in that thinking is a claim that you know better. I mean, if you don't know better, then why should you intervene through your design work, right? And so there's a sort of arrogance to that a little bit, and there's a presumption that there's a process you can follow to understand what better looks like. And that's why it's so important to keep humans at the center of the process we follow, so that we don't presume that we know better, but we understand what is better for people in their terms, from their perspective. That's why the development of empathy and or user research processes is so important, and why we even put the H first in HCI, so that it's focused first on humans and the technology follows. And so when you talk about your sense of purpose, it needs to be a sense of purpose that is a purpose that takes on the purpose of others, right? It's a purpose that serves others' interests and purposes, assuming you agree with those. And that's the kind of purpose that we're looking for and that we want to help you develop and enhance as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well said. All right. I think next, Michelle, do we have you on the line now?
Yes, I am here. I do apologize. I had a little bit of bad internet.
Welcome back in. Perfect timing, though. So, Michelle Barreto will be talking next a little bit about the pieces of the admissions process.
Yeah, so absolutely. So in terms of admissions application materials, so there have been a few changes this year, but not too many for folks who've been on the website. As a reminder, there is an application fee of $90 US. For context, we are unable to provide at the MHCID program any application fee waivers directly to the program. For some individuals, if they contact our graduate school, the UW Graduate School, there may be some opportunities for some of our domestic students. But I would, if that is something that you're looking for, I would recommend checking out our graduate school website. We ask also that you submit unofficial transcripts showing a minimum 3.0 equivalent GPA along with from an institution that is accredited. You should have approximately 4 years, so that would be about a 4-year curriculum. For folks who might be transferring from undergrad or from community college or did AP or IB or anything like that, know that as long as it's the equivalent of a 4-year degree, you're good to go. But if you are in a 3-year program, I would recommend reaching out to us in admissions to make sure that there are some ways to, with additional certifications, to be able to meet our requirement there. And we do ask only for an official transcript. You do not need to pay for official transcripts to be sent to the institution unless you are accepted. I would highly recommend doing that. Just it saves a little bit of money for folks. We also ask for 3 letters of recommendation. As a practitioner program, we value a variety of letters of recommendation. So while a more traditional graduate school experience might ask for primarily academic letters of recommendation, we really ask for those that best represent you, especially for some of our folks who've been a little bit further away from grad school. We understand that getting professors to write your letters of recommendation can be a little challenging, but we recommend a mix, and really think about those who can be your best advocates. You will also be asked to submit a resume or CV. Either format or style is fine. We don't have any specifics on that beyond just having something that shows your body of work. A statement of purpose. This statement of purpose is a real essential piece of the application process. This really should be the story of you and a piece of the application that you should really spend some time with. Make sure that it's well written, and also is sort of the core of who you are in this application. As of this year, so in terms of some changes as well, we now have changed our additional materials from being an optional material to a requirement. So you'll notice that we don't say portfolio. And the reason is that we do value folks coming from a variety of interdisciplinary backgrounds. And we know that for some of you, a portfolio is not your best additional material. It may be a research paper, or it may be a project you've worked on. I would say the majority of our applicants do submit more traditional, I would say, well, they submit portfolios in general. So there is some variety. Typically it is UX. Occasionally we get folks who come from architecture and other backgrounds with different types of portfolios. That probably is our most standard material, but we have absolutely accepted students who've submitted research papers and the like. And then the final additional material is a 1-minute video that's new of this year. We ask for you to speak a little bit about one of your projects within your additional materials section. So if it's a portfolio, speaking to one project, or if it is one project, talk to that a little bit. This is actually a new requirement for us, and we've not set too many guidelines in terms of style or presentation. With a little bit of intentionality, we're also doing a little bit of learning on this tool, and we really asked you to answer the question. But that's really, we are intentionally allowing you all to be able to make that what you will, but really it is about communicating a piece of your additional material. Excellent. All right, and then for our international applicants, we have some additional requirements. So first, you will need to be able to demonstrate English language proficiency, and there's a couple of ways you can do that. First, you can submit test scores such as TOEFL, IELTS, or Duolingo. And so that's something that definitely many of our applicants will do. You can also submit additional forms of proof of English language proficiency, including having attended an institution where the medium of instruction is English. So that includes having studied in the United States, as well as an institution where the medium of instruction is English. If it is a country, if you have attended an institution where the medium of instruction is in English in a country where English is not the primary language, you'll typically ask or request a letter from your institution, just provide that to us as evidence. And then the school must be a 4-year accredited school, and then the GPA will be converted by us to a 4.0 scale. We ask that if you have WES applications or any sort of conversion, that you also, we want those original transcripts, or the unofficial ones, like the digital copy is fine. But we ask that if you're submitting like WES documents, that is not required, and we actually would ask if you're doing that to submit the original ones as well. We really want those original documents. Excellent. All right. And so let's see here. In terms of cost and finance, so just a few reminders that we are a fee-based program. So the estimated tuition per year is about $60,000 USD. What's nice for some of our international students, it does mean that the cost is equivalent for both our domestic and international students, as well as our out-of-state folks as well. So the tuition, we don't get the benefit of having a reduced tuition cost from the state, but that does mean that every student pays the same fee. We also would say that we anticipate the living expenses to be about $20,000 to $30,000 in Seattle. Seattle is not a cheap city, and so as you're considering the cost of attending the University of Washington, it is just important to keep in mind the cost of living here. That includes housing and also additional expenses such as food and gas. And we just want to make sure that you're aware of, as you're budgeting and taking into consideration graduate school in general, to just be mindful of those additional costs. We want to make sure that you're successful and able to be able to cover the costs there. Most of our students are paying using loans, while we do have some limited options in terms of scholarships through the admissions process, as well as limited student employment. All students, I would say, in the past have typically paid for their MHCID experience through student loans or some sort of other external funding option. All right. And then in terms of our admissions timeline, so the application will be closing on January 15th of 2026 at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So just make sure that your application and all your materials are submitted by then. For the letters of recommendation, it is important that we get those in a timely manner. All right. And then once our decisions will be out by March 15th. In the past, we've been very, very good about hitting that March 15th deadline. And usually within that week, I think we almost always get it on March 15th. And so we're pretty proud of that accomplishment. All right, and then final one is on April 15th is your decision deadline. And so that will be what you'll let us know whether or not you want to join us in the MHCID community. And this would be for the folks who receive initial offering. If you are a applicant who is waitlisted, you would have it a different timeline, but April 15th would be your final decision date. And you can always reach out to us if you think you need a little additional time. Excellent.
All right. Thanks so much, Michelle. Yeah.
Thank you.
Keeping those 15ths in mind, January 15th, March 15th, April 15th. Those are the key deadlines to have, or key dates to have in mind in the admissions process here. I want to talk briefly about the other end. So admissions tells you about getting into the program and what's needed to get into the program. We've talked about what you'll be doing during the year here, but I also wanted to talk about the other side, because this is a professional degree and we're preparing you for careers in the field. This isn't so much an academic program that's preparing people for PhD programs down the line or a life in academia. You're going out into the career world as a professional after this program. So we do a lot during the year to help with your career development. I'll just talk briefly about this now, but this is something worth having in mind as we go forward. Within the program itself, we provide a lot of resources to help you prepare for that job search and your career launch as you go out the other side. We hold a series of workshops that are especially focused on the nuts and bolts of how to make it through an interview process. we'll break apart all the different stages of the interview process, from screening interviews to behavioral interviews to whiteboard challenges or app critiques, and especially the portfolio presentation. All those different stages we have workshops on and practice sessions on. Also your materials like your resume and the like. We'll talk through all of those in workshops throughout the year. In addition to that, though, we do a lot of one-on-one counseling with students because you're all coming at this with different objectives and at different stages of preparation. So meeting with the advisors in the program is a key part of your career development as we go along. As one piece of that I think is worth mentioning, we provide for international students a lot of assistance as you're getting ready to apply for OPT and your employment authorization to do your work authorization. Michelle in our team is a former DSO, so brings a lot of knowledge for international students as we go along and prepare for that. We also have workshops on things like networking, how to meet with different folks in industry. We organize site visits where we take a group of students to go and talk with folks at different companies and see what they're experiencing in real life as designers. Last year, we had visits to companies like Uber and Google and Blink UX and Starbucks, among others. I think those are most of the ones we went to. A big part of our resources that we provide as well are our alumni. Our alumni give back a lot to current students. We have an alumni mentoring program that every student has 2 alumni mentors that they'll work with starting in winter and spring quarter. Our alumni often have panels that they'll come back and we'll organize panels around different themes, like say a group of user researchers will come in and talk about life as user researcher in industry, or maybe a group from a single company like Google or something like that will come in and talk about life as designers and researchers within a specific company. Those are great places to both learn from them immediately, but also make some connections and start talking to folks down the road. We're a small program, but we've got over 400 alumni now. So there are alums stretched around a whole bunch of different companies in the area and worldwide. Beyond us, just briefly want to mention that one of the background advantages of being in Seattle and at the University of Washington is the location here. The University of Washington is a large school. It has a large career and internship center that offers workshops on different stages of the job search almost every day of the week. It's a big school, so of course a lot of those are geared towards undergrads, but you can take advantage of those strategically and make use of the job fairs and other workshops and seminars they have. That can be really useful. I think being in Seattle is one of the big hidden strengths of this program and what we have to offer. Seattle is a great place to be a practitioner in this field. The Bay Area perhaps arguably has more people working in this field, but the next best place would be somewhere like Seattle that just brings together, not just Microsoft and Amazon, but also a large presence in Google. Meta's got a large couple of offices here. A lot of subsidiary companies that have spun out from the big Amazon and Microsoft juggernaut in town has led to a pretty thriving area of companies and work, both big and small, that focus on fields that you might want to go into. So being in Seattle, being at the University of Washington, and being specifically in this program offer a lot of resources as you're working on your career. Just a couple of outcome slides, and then I really want to move on to talk with our students today. So our alumni, we've got a breakdown of where our alumni are now. About half of the alum are still working in the Seattle area. If you add in the Bay Area and the rest of the West Coast, we're getting close to about 80% of our alumni live somewhere on the West Coast of the US. There's a good contingent that lives in the East Coast of the US that are working, especially in New York City, and a handful of people working scattered throughout the rest of the US and about 6% throughout the rest of the world. But most of our alum are here on the West Coast. That's where a lot of the companies of interest are, so it's not too surprising there. Job titles are a little messy in this field, but in general, most of our alum are working at a job title that roughly could be called designer, whether it's product designer, UX designer, UI designer, a lot of different labels around designer things, but that's about 2/3 of our alum. About 10% of our alum are user researchers. Another 10% or so are in what I would call management or leadership roles, and another 14% are kind of harder to categorize what they're working on. Last thing to talk about is hiring speed. I think it's important to think about, when you're investing a year in a program like this, what can I be expecting on the other side? So if you've been paying attention to this field at all the last few years, there's been a slowdown in hiring in tech in general, but especially in this field. And it's worth thinking about, but we've had really good success with our students, both over the years and even more recently. Our hiring speed, we look at when people get hired after graduating, and our overall hiring speed for our alumni has been pretty consistently that by three months after graduation, about 2/3 of the alum were working in a full-time job, working in a position related to their degree here. By 6 months out, we're up around 90%. But that's the whole last 12 years. The last 2 years, things have slowed down for sure. 3 years ago, things really stopped in hiring. 2 years ago, things were slow. Last year, we had some good recovery, but we're still trying to get ourselves up to these traditional sort of overall levels. So our last full year of grads, the 20 people who graduated in August of 2024, after 3 months, over half of them were employed. That's still significantly lower than what our usual average is, but a pretty good outcome, given how slow things have been for a couple of years. Once we look at by 6 months out, we're up over 70% of our alumni finding jobs, even in this tighter job market. So I think that's a tribute to the preparation that you get in a program like this, that you're coming out in the market that's a tight market, but it's a market where the requirements for hiring are higher now. The bar is higher, and we think we're preparing you for that higher bar. A little bit of stats for the most recent grads. They've only graduated 2 months ago, so we don't have like full details of what happened to the class of 2025 yet. They're out there doing their job searches right now. Things are looking fairly decent. I'm cautiously optimistic, but we've got to wait some time before we understand what's going on. We've had people hired at several interesting, good companies here, but it's still too early to really know what's going on. But I think that's important to have a sense of the hiring speed for any program you're looking at. And we're definitely watching the interesting job market these days to see how that's affecting the field that we're moving into. That's just a little glimpse on the career side. We can talk more if you have questions about that during question and answer, but I'm really interested in not showing slides any longer, but taking some time to meet some current students and hear what they have to say about the program. So I would like to stop the slide deck here and introduce Caleb, Kanishka, Mira, and Jai to talk a little bit about what they've been experiencing in the program. Let me stop the sharing there. We should be able to see actual people instead of just the slide deck here. Welcome in, Jai, Caleb, Kanishka, Mira. It's great to see you all. And everybody, these are current students who started just last month. So they're veterans of a little over a month now. It feels like forever in some ways, but it's also just getting started for them. What I'd like to do to get us started is maybe ask each of you to introduce yourself, give us a sense of where you came from, and maybe just a little bit of information about like a year ago when you were putting together your application, what were you considering? How did you decide that this is a place you wanted to show up at? So looking around, I see Kanishka first. So why don't we start with you?
Sure. Hi, I'm Kanishka. I'm from India. I just joined MHCID this year. I'm 1 month into this course. I have a background in user experience design. I went to a design school back home, and I have a bachelor's in human-centered design. Coming here, I wasn't expecting how fast-paced it would be. So you're on your feet the very first day. There is no hi, how are you? Nothing. You just get right to the point from the beginning. In terms of how you can create your application, or just in terms of writing your SOP, maybe even like Michelle said, I think you should just be you, be honest. I think for me especially, it was just me reflecting on how I like what my journey was going to look like and how I wanted to get there. That sort of helped me write my SOP. And for my portfolio, I put it together because I'm a design student. I come from that background, so I sort of know how to create a portfolio. So that really helped. So yeah, that is what that's what my journey looks like. Anything else, Matt, that I didn't answer?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
Awesome. Caleb, you're next on my screen, so we'll go with you, Caleb. And
Hey,
thanks for the video as well.
Oh yeah, of course. Can you all hear me pretty easily?
You're good.
Perfect. So I'm a little biased in that I was actually born in Seattle, but I moved to San Antonio, Texas. Yes, Texas, when I was about 4. And then from there I studied to be a computer science major, but I also had a sociology background. So there's a little bit of human elements going on within that little jumble of majors and minors. But on top of that, I also have a creative side where I do music and a lot of design work. So I'm kind of like an interdisciplinary fiasco going on. But that's what really resonated with me when I saw MHCID, and that the dub community space kind of made it. So it's nice seeing all these different cohorts or these people coming together to make some new inventions, new ideas, so that I just really enjoyed that. So that's why I picked MHCID. But as for application materials, I would say put your whole heart out there. Also, don't use ChatGPT to write your whole essay. We can tell. So highly recommend not to do that. But write your heart out.
Awesome. Thank you. Next up, Mira. Mira, you're on.
Can y'all hear me okay?
You're kind of good.
All right. Max, since eigenlijk squash Mira Forspring. Hello, everyone. Oh, I forgot one of the last names. Mira Devecha Forspring. Hello, everyone. My name is Mira Devecha Forspring. I'm a proud enrolled member of the Cowlitz Indian tribe and a descendant of the Nisqually, Klickitat, and Quinault tribes. My background, very similar to Caleb, a bit of just a fiasco of all the different things. I think of it as you're making spaghetti, you're trying to check if the noodles are done and ready, and you throw it at the wall and you see if it sticks. And so I come from a big background of there's psychology, sociology, anthropology, indigenous studies, but also screenwriting and film. And I feel like if any of you guys are coming from like a creative writing background, that is actually going to provide a lot of really transferable skills to this program. Anything from log lines to pitch decks, as well as just like story structure, which is absolutely amazing. It's actually something that was really drawing me towards this program, was just all of the interdisciplinary aspects of it that were just so enticing and seemed like it would be really engaging for me. As for application materials, I think the biggest thing that I had in mind when I was putting together my application, I had 2 different parts of it. And one was a bit more rooted in my academic background, and one was more just in my creative side. Not a typical portfolio piece, but the biggest thing I was thinking of as I was looking at it was, if I was in admissions right now and I was going through this person's application, how could I make this as painless as possible? So I had like a 30+ page research paper with so many different other aspects to it. And I was like, wow, I would hate doing this. I would hate reading through this entire thing and taking all the time. So I made sure to include a little like page that kind of summarized the main points of this paper, just to kind of save people's time and sanity. I'm sure that they did read through the entire paper, but in case they were running short on time, how could I make it easier for them? And I think that's the biggest part of just being as authentically you as you can, but also really considering your audience that you're submitting this application to, and how best you can just, again, show yourself in a way that will be not necessarily palatable, but like easiest to chew, but still be you, if that makes sense.
Can I actually add on to that real quick?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, so when writing your application, whether this is for undergrad or for a master's program, I think humans tend to be hyperbolic, and want to express themselves in a way that seems very endearing, very like out of this world. So I recommend reading your essay again a week later to see how it sounds and to see if you agree with it, because a lot can change within a week, trust me.
Absolutely.
Can
Yes.
I add on to that? Yeah, so I resonate with what you're saying because when I first started writing it and versus 50 drafts later, it sounded completely different to me. So I agree. Read, reread, it's very helpful.
And keep on track those previous iterations of your essay as well, because sometimes a previous iteration may sound a bit better than a later one. Not always the case, but
Good thinking, definitely. I want to bring in next Jai. So Jai, many of you will probably be talking to during the coming months. Jai is our admissions ambassador as well as being a current student. So she helps us out in all things about the admissions process here. So Jai, tell us a little about yourself. Welcome in.
Hi everyone, thank you Matt for the introduction. I'm Jia Yi. I have a background in psychology and philosophy with a concentration on cognitive science. And after college, I kind of explored different career paths like everybody in this room. I started out in consulting and then later worked as a behavior therapist. So it's in that role as a mental health professional, I saw firsthand how many resources and technologies are inaccessible or unaffordable for neurodiverse individuals or children with developmental disabilities. So this really sparked my interest in human community interaction. I chose MHCID because there are a lot of reasons there, but I would say that the two main reasons is that first, I really like that it has like a cohort-based model. I really value close-knitted learning communities. My undergrad was also in a small liberal arts college where all of the learnings are happening in like small seminars, and this program has the same collaborative cohort-based feel. And I love how in group projects I get to work with folks from like very diverse backgrounds. Like we have people in like film, like Mira, and then career science, like Caleb, and design, Kanishka, and also people in mechanical engineering to architecture, and of course social science. Just love the diversity there, and I think it's definitely helpful from designer's perspective to kind of like bring in people with like different voices and different perspectives to work on the project. And the second reason I chose MHCID is that I love that it has like project-based curriculum instead of like very lecture heavy or just, you know, you sit there and you listen to the teacher. It's very hands-on. Most of the time we spend in the studio, we're like talking to people, communicating, pitching for our ideas. So that learning by doing part fits perfectly with how I like to learn. Application material wise, I feel like I'm gonna say the cliche of like doing your research, attending information sessions, and exploring the website, talking to current students. I feel like the research part is like underestimated in the application process because I feel like you can get a lot of like resources and information from just like talking to people and like from websites. Kind of what you guys are already doing right here. And also make sure that the program has something that you're really excited about and kind of mention that in your personal statement and stay authentic in your application materials, right? And from a social science background, I want to like speak directly to the people who have a social science background out there. I was very intimidated when I saw like there people who have like design background who has like portfolios that are like shiny and fancy and like a fully responsive personal website portfolio. But I made my portfolio on the site back, which made me feel like imposter. But this is an interdisciplinary field and the program values a lot of like diverse perspective and teamwork. So don't worry if your portfolio isn't a perfectly polished designer website. And I think what matters most here is what you bring to the table. And don't ever underestimate that.
That's great. Thank you. These are great intros. I would love to hear a little bit about what you've been up to this year so far. What kind of things are you working on? What have you found yourself working on, both in the core classes and electives? Those might be different for each of you. So I'm not going to go around. Any of you want to speak? Go for it.
Yeah, I can go ahead.
Thanks.
So currently, how this program works is that you have multiple groups happening at the same time. So I'm trying to juggle all those groups in my mind, all those different people. But what from I can remember currently is we are currently researching some extended reality things for a user research project. And we're just now getting to the phase of actually doing interviews. So that's currently what I'm working on. It's been a very long and tumultuous 4 weeks for this particular project, but now we're getting started. So it's very nice to see that happen.
Awesome.
To add to what Caleb said, in the same class, I'm looking at how productivity can help people who sort of have neurodivergence in terms of ADHD, and how we can help tweak or change productivity tools that are already out there to help them lead a better or have more productive lifestyle. So what I've learned is that when you first make a draft, that's just your first draft. There's so much more to it. And we get that sort of feedback from our professors. So I think I've gone back and forth with Kristen and Sarah are our user researchers. So Christina has helped us. I think she's helped us reiterate this like 5 times now, and it was due 2 days ago. So we've been going back and forth with her 5 times. So that way it's very on the spot learning, and you always learn. No matter what you're doing, you're always learning.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm seconding Caleb with there are so many groups, and I think get really good at coordinating your calendar for this program, because figuring out times that work with everyone's classes and busy lives it's definitely a process. I'm in a group project for every single class that I'm in right now, and it's an experience. Um, Similarly, in the same class as Caleb and Konishka, my group, we are currently focusing on some research studies into just falsified information, data security, as well as, oh, what is it? Like identity theft online. So we're very excited to be looking into that. I think what am I doing in my other class? In my elective, I'm actually helping propose and put together a entirely new feature for an app. We chose Instacart, and I can't share too much about the feature that we're developing or trying to figure out. But it's very exciting, and it's just fun to be taking something that some people use in their everyday lives and just, I don't know, if you're walking around and you're using an app and you're like, it'd be so much better if it had this, and then actually getting to kind of go into that and go through hypothesis and all those different forms is just so exciting. That's my little ramble.
Cool.
I kind of want to talk about the final project that I'm working on for my elective, which is visual communications. I don't come from a design background, so I wanted to pick up some visual and design skills in this quarter. So for our final project, we're redesigning a website for a local nonprofit organization that addresses food insecurity issues in the local community. It's been very challenging to me, especially getting used to a lot of design tools and visual theories, especially compared to those folks who have a design background and they're already familiar with the tools. But I'm having a lot of fun in this class, and it's rewarding because I get to apply what I learn in books directly to real life projects, which feels very purposeful and meaningful.
That's awesome. Outside of class, how's the cohort experience been? What have y'all found? You've had a month now with each other. We've talked about what the ideal is of what we think we're putting together, but how has the cohort been together? How has your experience been this month?
Yeah,
What surprised you or didn't surprise you?
I didn't realize having so many people from different backgrounds would actually put together personalities that are very much alike. I've become friends with a lot of people, like really close friends with a few people in this cohort so far. And it helps a lot, especially in Seattle, as it's becoming winter and people are staying inside most of the time. It's good to have like this group of people to hang out with after class, to get a beer with, to do anything after class. That's generally really fun, especially during winter time. So.
Also, I think the first week of classes is when we sort of get our calendar, and I happen to have 2 weeks of 2 days of the week that are free. And in the first week, I was like, "Whoa! I have like a long weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday." That doesn't happen. We have projects after projects after projects, which have meeting after meeting after meeting. So there is no gap. Even you're working on your weekends as well. So try to balance your academic as well as your social life if you can. Yeah, that is something that was very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have to second both what Caleb and Kornishka are saying. I feel like when I came into this cohort, I was like, did they match us by like personality or something? Because I just remember coming home from the first day of like our intensive week and just being like, these are the coolest people I've ever met in my entire life. And I kept rambling about that. But seriously, these are people in the cohort, at least to me, are some of the most like interesting and talented and dynamic people I've met. Everyone is so incredibly supportive and dedicated to this program, but it is really important to have work-life balance. The staff are absolutely wonderful. Again, applause to Matt and Jacob and Dukes and Kristen, and I'm so horrible with names, but I know that there's
Michelle.
Michelle is in there too, and just amazing,
Can't
amazing.
believe you'll forget Michelle. Oh my
I
gosh.
know, oh no,
Can't
I
believe
can't
you.
remember people's names, but everyone is just really, really supportive in this program. But it all is also really important to be conscious about your schedule. I think I'm one of the few people in the cohort who is still working, but the only reason I'm able to do that is because my boss is willing to be super duper flexible with me and it was able to let me go down to at maximum 10 hours a week. And that's something where I can break it up to fit between the time that works for me and my schedule. But if I didn't have that opportunity and if I didn't have, again, a workplace where someone was willing to be that flexible and wasn't going to push my time, I would not be able to be working. So if you are considering Matt was very informative and said anything that exceeds 10 hours is going to be too much. And I can fully agree with that. So yeah, if you're lucky and have an amazing boss like me, shout out Scott Pinkham, who also is a former UW professor who understands the experience of grad students. Yeah, the working thing isn't going to work out, but if you have people that are willing to let you go down those hours and be flexible, you sort of can do it.
I agree with everything that everybody just said. And also second Mira on how many like amazing people that I have met in this program. Like everybody was just so like I love the vibe. And I would say that like everybody else just mentioned, the pace of the program is definitely fast. So one of the biggest lessons so far for me is learning to kind of like set boundaries and find a sustainable rhythm. Like you gotta work hard, but you don't want to burn out, right? So like you gotta make this work style very sustainable. And before joining this program, I was working in the industry. So in the industry, you work 9 to 5, and then after work or on the weekends, it's your me personal time. But it's not like that in school. So kind of like intentionally setting boundaries, having a Saturday off to away from work and just enjoy a little life is like definitely something that I'm working on right now. But yeah, it's been incredibly engaging and I've grown so much already.
Everybody's talking about how busy and intense this all is, but I want to give you all a shout out for being for also organizing a lot of social activities this year. It's been noticeable. I don't know if any of you want to talk a little bit about like what the cohort has done already this year. Caleb got stuck at the Space Needle.
Well, yeah. So, okay, sure, I can talk about that. Thank you, Matt. I can talk about it.
How about?
So there was a night a few weeks ago where some of the cohort members and I went up to the Space Needle. It was during nighttime. It was really beautiful, very good experience. We got to see Rainier, to Mount Rainier from very top. But midway through that experience, elevators stopped working. So we had to climb down around 850 steps from the top of the Space Needle to the bottom, the base center of it, at like 10 p.m. It was very cold, very windy. It was a great experience. Some of the cohort members didn't like it, but I did. It was unique, and that's what I really enjoyed about it.
Bonding. It was a bonding
It was a
experience.
bonding experience, trauma bonding, yes. Yeah, but that was my experience.
I think we should just try and enjoy the Seattle weather while we still have it. Just because I remember I think the second week of class, Flork had actually asked us to do a field trip by ourselves and go anywhere and explore Seattle. And my group decided to go to Bainbridge, and it was so beautiful because we got to see Mount Rainier while going and coming back. And when you come back, you can see the Seattle skyline alongside Rainier. And I think that was like a pinch me goosebumps moment for me because I was like, this is really happening. It was that was like my highlight of Seattle till now.
Yeah, and right now, it's becoming fall, it's becoming autumn. A lot of the leaves around campus are turning a bright red or an orange. It's very beautiful.
I
It's
saw
very
a
nice
pic
to see.
the other day. I was like, whoa, I didn't even know that was a
Yeah.
color of leaf.
I know.
Speaking of like leaves and Seattle weather, I think a group of the cohort went hiking last weekend to a lake. I think like the folks drove for like 3 hours or something like that to went hiking on the lake, and then they had hot pot after, which I'm jealous. I was not available for this, but I love the photos and the videos that they had. So yeah, definitely like a lot of bonding, like social activities outside of work. Like we also know each other personally, which like definitely makes the group project smoother, I would say.
Yeah, you hiked in the snow too, right? Was it snowing? Yeah, that's a cool experience.
Yeah, we also, oh, also to note as well, when we went to Bainbridge, when we were coming back on the ferry, we had the absolutely rare and magical experience of seeing orcas, which was just absolutely wonderful. Love that. But also, don't diss the Seattle rain. It can actually be really beautiful. And I think one of my favorite things is stepping outside after it's rained and you just breathe in the air, and it is just it's an experience unlike any other. I don't even know how to describe it, but it is like the ultimate refresh. Yeah, refresh. It's so refreshing. I'm also part of, we have different committees as part of the program. I'm part of the social committee. So far we've had a movie night. We're coming up with spirit weeks, dressing as like user personas. And coming up on Monday, we will be doing our second monthly birthday celebration. Oh, sorry, my dog is coming over now. But we're gonna be celebrating everybody whose birthday was occurring in the month of October, and we're super excited about that. Last month for September, it was tiramisu and mango macaroons. So very excited about that.
Mira actually
Very,
baked them and
yeah.
she's really good. So I just
You're not
thought
giving
I'd put it
yourself
out
credit.
there. Yeah.
Those are fantastic, by the way.
You have to make sure to have really good bakers in every cohort.
Yeah.
Mira's
Yeah.
feeling that here. I want to make sure we have some time for questions. This has been great to talk with y'all and hear a little bit. We've still got a little bit of time left in this. People have been putting questions in chat. Also, if you have a question you want to ask it live, you can just raise your hand and we'll call on you there. I'll ask for help from all of our co-hosts here. If anybody's noticed a question come by that we can throw out to the group of us, we can start picking away at the questions from chat.
Yeah, I'm looking at one right now about how many students come from industry versus academia or undergrad from Charlie. I actually came straight from undergrad. I had a little brief stint doing contract work for a higher ed institution. But myself, I came straight from undergrad. I think the majority of people have some industry experience. I don't know if this is this isn't an academic program, so I don't think you're going to see many people come from academia besides undergrad. But I could be wrong.
No, I think you're right, Caleb. The the very rough breakdowns of sort of cohort experiences, about half of any given cohort, we think of as having some work experience, like 2 years to 5 years of work experience. So a good solid job or two after undergrad, that's about half of the cohort. About 30% of the cohort tends to be pretty closely coming from undergrad. So either directly from undergrad or maybe within a year of that. And then the remaining 20-ish%, whatever's left of the pie, comes with more than 5 years of work experience. Often those are people who are pivoting from maybe a completely different background and are wanting to move into this after that. So that's kind of the breakdown. Yeah, academia, other than direct from undergrad, not too many coming directly from that.
I also have a similar background to what Caleb just said. I came here with around 10 months of work ex. So I used to work as a user experience designer, and then I applied for this and I came in. So I wouldn't call myself a fresh undergrad, but somewhere there in the middle.
That's awesome. Jordan Love. Jordan, you've got your hand up. Why don't we take a question from you? Thanks for.
Sure, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I know this kind of feels like an inescapable topic the past couple of years, but I'm curious how the program and the curriculum have adapted to generative AI.
I would be happy to talk a little. Jake, do you want to talk a little as well?
I
know
can
you
lead
could
that
fix-
off. Yeah, I can add a little and then you can say more. I'll refer, how the program's adapted could be taken a few different ways, but the content of the classes is adapting, I would say. So we're beginning to add certain assignments to some of the courses. I'll have an assignment, for example, in my user interface software and technology class in the winter that has essentially working with generative AI as a partner to build an interactive user experience. So it's working its way into various projects and assignments and the courses. That's one side of it. There's the other side of it is how is it affecting how the program itself runs or operates, and that's kind of its own question. Matt may or may not speak to that, but it's going to be something that we continue to develop over time because AI itself is developing so fast over time. It's not a switch you flick and it's on, and it's off and then it's on. It's going to be a progression that probably is progressing for some time, exactly how we incorporate it into the curriculum. I'm sure you've heard of human-centered AI, and there's certainly an aspect of HCI and design that can be focused on AI, and your capstone project, for example, could have more or less AI in it. However you approach it would still be from a human-centered perspective in this program. So it could be an aspect of a project that you do, but you're not an AI master student, right? So you're not focused on the AI itself, but you're using AI for a human-centered purpose. So that'd be the ways that it finds itself in the program.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That I think it's incorporated now, and it's still an evolving field, right? Coming to grasp and coming to terms with how AI is going to change our field and change the way we work. But most every course has somebody talking about the impact of AI on the subject in there. We've definitely found that as we reflect back on things, I think that part of what's going to be more and more important is building up that core foundation of understanding why we're doing what we're doing. You may be able to use AI to take care of some of the visuals at the end of your design process, but understanding what good design is and what a good question is to work on, that's something that still needs a lot of the human element and a lot of what you learn in the courses here, I think. We've got a dedicated elective that we're offering for the first time next quarter, with a couple of people who have taught seminars for us on coming to understand Gen AI more specifically. But that's the first time we've offered a dedicated course, and it's as an elective. I think what you'll see is sort of, as Jacob has done in his coming course in winter, more of the core curriculum, building out pieces within them where they incorporate like why AI might be a part of this subject matter and how to make use of it. And a lot of capstones definitely have been talking about AI in the last years.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Yeah. And I might actually add one more thing, Matt, if you don't mind.
Yeah, Michelle.
Yeah, I would also say that we've been in conversation with our alumni in different ways. So we've had folks come in to talk with us who graduated from the MHCID program and are working in an industry that is being impacted by AI. They've talked with our faculty group, and we recently established an alumni council. I know they're very interested in thinking about how the MHCID alumni can also speak to and address AI. And what we've been hearing so far, and this is just very top line, but I think there is, both a curiosity, and of course it is a big industry shift. And I think folks continue to iterate that having good design skills, foundational design skills, that these core qualities of the program continue to be very relevant. And so there is a lot of, I think, like optimism that there are some things about the program that still continue to be solid and true. And we are trying to be adaptive in bringing in thought partners with our alumni.
Absolutely.
Could I also make a note as well?
Sure.
I think one of the things that really stuck with me, that I can't remember people's names. I think it was Axel. He is one of our instructors. And in the first week, there was a bit of a talk about Gen AI. And I think the way that he put it is that typically AI is only going to get a person about 80% of the way there. It's our job to figure out ways that we can get things to 100%. And because typically what we'll see with these algorithms is it's only going to be the most generic and common response that we can see, we need that individual human input in order to make just products and platforms that are truly unique, and are, of course, human friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's right. Let's bring in Quinn. Quinn, you had a question, your hand raised for a while. Thanks for waiting.
Yeah, of course. Thank you to everyone on the panel for such a comprehensive overview. It's been really great. I had a question in terms of application components. I'm sure it's a holistic overview, but is there a way that you weigh the statement of purpose versus the portfolio and resume and letters of recommendation? Any insights on how to capitalize on different components of our application?
I would say basically, of course, we're going to say that everything is super important. We're going to make it not easy for you that way. Of course, we're going to say that. I really think that, somebody talked earlier about I think Mira was talking about the components of telling a story. I would think about your application as a story. And to me, the entryway into your application is understanding your personal statement and how you set forward what you think you're doing with this year, why you want to come to this particular program and what you'll bring to it. Because of that, I think putting together and focusing on that personal statement is a really important way that you can kind of make the case. We are really open to people from any background. I hope you've seen some of the diversity and what the current student panel brings.
Yeah.
Because of that, there's not sort of a set thing that we're looking to tick off. I saw somebody asked in questions whether we need you to have coding skills or other specific technical skills. For some people, that might be essential. For others, not at all. So because you can come from so many different directions in here, I think it makes it even more important to put together a compelling argument that makes it easy for the application readers to understand what you think you're doing with this application that you're giving us.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
And I think, there are some like weights in there. Like if you come with more work experience, probably put more attention on your resume and than on your schoolwork. If you're coming directly from undergrad, we're going to probably pay less attention to your resume and more to what you've done in school so far. So there's different things that might weigh things differently in each case.
I
But
see. The application also depends on context. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
that makes-
absolutely.
thank
And
you.
I would also say too, when you're thinking about your pieces, what can each piece do to complement? I agree that this idea of the application is the story of you, the statement of purpose is this core piece of it, and then also think strategically how other elements can be an artifact to that story. So if you're spending a lot of time in your statement of purpose listing just a bunch of accomplishments that's already in your resume, that may not be the most effective use of that short amount of space. So think about what can the resume do to uniquely add to that story of you? What can your additional material add to that story of you? And so it's about being strategic, I think, in that way. And I would actually say that's a good strategy for all graduate applications. And I would also say, in terms of folks who maybe are feeling worried about maybe not having enough experience, you are coming into a program to learn. And so I would encourage folks to speak to your good qualities and the things that you want to highlight that could make you a great addition to the MHCID program. And also, if you're coming already as an expert, there's sort of a question of why would you want to come to a program if you already know everything? So I think there's ways to speak to areas of growth and opportunity and how this program can fit that vision. So I wouldn't necessarily shy away from maybe areas that you feel you need to grow in, and think more about strategically in your story how the MHCID program fits that vision of your personal growth.
That's a great way to think about it.
Could I make one little note as well for the application? Also, I found in my own experience, because there were two parts of my application, I originally was only going to be submitting one part that was just a research paper and some aspects of it. But even if you maybe had some sort of side project that you did that you think, I don't know if they're really going to want to see this, if it's something that you were passionate about, I think you should include it because you can have multiple parts to your application. Um, and also like they don't need to be super perfectly polished as well. I remember I was looking through one of parts of my submission and there was some stuff in there that even in the little Google Drive folder it was labeled very rough by myself. So if it's something where you're able to get the idea across and it's something that's really important and authentic to you, even if you're like, oh, this sketch isn't super good or I'm not super great at Figma yet, at least in my case, I think it was really worth it to still submit.
Amazing. Well, thank you for everyone's responses. I wasn't expecting so many responses. It's been really helpful.
Also, something that I did was for people who do have a design background here, maybe. So I had a project that I couldn't necessarily include in my portfolio. So what I had done was usually what people do is they put their link in their resume. I had created another sheet where it said, here's a link to my resume. And also, if you'd like to take a look at another side project of mine or a project that's live, here's the link to that. So that is also some way that you can sort of add your projects in for them to see.
And I think it's a good contrast with Kanishka and Mira, because Kanishka, if you were coming in saying, I've got some design experience, we might look at your materials and expect to see some craft skills. That if Mira was coming in saying, I'm coming in and I bring to this program these things, we might be leaning more on saying, well, she talked about her storytelling and filmmaking. I'm going to be looking at that skill. We'll look at you based on what you've introduced yourself as. So we might expect some more design skills if you come in saying, I've done it all. I know the UX side.
Yeah, super helpful to know that context is even used within the admissions process. So thank you for everyone and your answers.
I know we're at time, but I wanted to give the panelists a chance if they've looked through chat and they've seen something that looks like just a must answer question. We can probably throw another one out here before we wrap it up today. I always have a hard time monitoring chat while doing the presentation stuff.
Can I just say one more thing?
Sure, killer.
If any of you like video games, I highly recommend Seattle in general. There's a lot of video game developers up here. Valve is a big one up here. We had a tour with them last year. So if you'd like to see them up close,
Good point.
There's also the Pokemon Company International in Bellevue.
Pokemon Company, yeah.
Pokemon Company, and there's Nintendo in Redmond, and
Yep.
The Last of Us 2 took place in Seattle, and all fun things like that.
I used to work at a video game school over in Redmond, and I will say that our pitch used to be that we have 250 different video game and technology companies in the 10-mile radius of Redmond.
It's not DigiPen, right? Is it DigiPen?
That was
It was,
DigiPen.
there you go, yeah.
But yes, if you are into video game design, this is a great spot.
I saw a question in the chat about opportunities working with external partners in the industry about like tangible real world projects. And the answer is we do have instructors from the industry. So our current instructor in the user research class, Sarah, she's like runs her own consulting business. So I also know that she also teaches like usability studies course, I think. And she will bring like external industry partners to like work with for that course. So aside from the capstone, there are definitely opportunities to partner with external sponsors in your time here.
Yeah, I'm glad you raised that, Jai, because that's a big part of our teaching cohort every year. There's a good mixture of academic instructors and folks coming with industry experience. And I think that balance works really nicely to give you different perspectives on the same topic. We often have co-instructors, one who's academy and one who's industry. But also many of our academics are academics, sure, maybe primarily, but they've spent a good amount of time in the industry as well. So there's a lot of leaping back and forth between those two different sides of the fence. That's
Can I
that's
quickly
incredible.
answer another question as well?
Sure.
Yeah, one is I think it's from Amog, and he's talking about how he has a lot of projects from work and he can't present it in his portfolio. So I also had a portfolio piece that was under NDA. So I wasn't able to show it on my portfolio, but what you can do is you can sort of walk them through your process. So your entire portfolio is just you telling a story. So what you can do is you can incorporate your tasks that you did, or if you're a researcher or a designer, what your process looked like, because for right now, they're just trying to look at your design thinking and your design process instead of just the results. And of course, you can maybe just put in a link which is password protected, or if you want to go into it in depth, which as for admissions, I'm not sure how it works, but you can always, they'll probably email you, or you can email them and tell them that, this is under NDA, or you can put it in your portfolio as well. At least for me, that's what I did. And yeah, that would work. You don't have to put it on your portfolio, but you can put aspects of your design thinking and your design process.
Absolutely, yeah. All right, I want to be mindful of time. Everybody, you've been a great audience. I really want to thank our panelists for all the insights and time that you've brought here today. Jacob, Michelle, thanks for coming in and helping to lead this process. Kanishka, Caleb, Mira, Jai, it's been awesome to hear from you all too, and to hear some of what's been going on across the hallway here in the studio. Everyone, please reach out to us if you have questions. Check out our website. The easy place to start if you need to email questions is mhcid@uw.edu. We'll get it from there and we'll be able to answer your questions along the way. And to reiterate what Michelle said earlier, January 15th, that's the name or the date you want to have in your head. Applications due January 15th.
Sorry.
Everyone, thanks so much.
I'll drop my email address in the chat. I just did, but like the chat goes through very fast. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions that were not answered, or you just simply want to chat more about the program and my experience here.
Thanks, Jai. Yeah.
Sure.
That can be really helpful. Really good. Everyone, thank you so much. Have a great evening, morning, afternoon, wherever this finds you. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, all.
Also, if there's any Native people, you should apply to this program. We need more of you. Bye.
Good call, Mira. Good call.